Welcome to the Heavyweight Podcast.
The message behind saying the title of the Heavyweight Podcast is to be able to say that we can weigh in on some heavy shit. You know, what we're talking about is important from every aspect of it. It's a heavy weight. It's not just about physical weight, but the weight of things that can weigh our minds. So I think it's dope that we can have this conversation. What's good? This is episode 135 of the Heavyweight Podcast. I am Studden McFly, back again with these three guys. Go ahead and state your name for the beautiful people out here.
They call me Johnny Big Meat.
How many did you say that louder?
Did you say Big Beat?
Johnny Big Meat.
Okay. I thought it was going to be serious. It's your boy Molito Grouch. I'm not calling you that. I'm not calling you that.
And they call you Hunter.
I was going to say they call me Daddy Longstroke, but you know I can go with Hunter.
Them little ass legs.
But the third one is nice.
I'm sorry. All right, we got to get serious. Let's get serious.
The third one is nice though.
Get serious. I believe you. I believe you.
Oh my God. All right. How are your weeks?
This week?
Hilarious.
This week?
Let's get serious.
Trying to think.
Johnny.
That's good when you don't have to, when you like, don't recall anything.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
That means
You get into it.
rolling
Like
through. It's one of those.
tell your motherfuckers that, and y'all be like, damn. I'm like, no, it's nice when nothing happens. You know, like we were talking earlier. It's like that loop of life. It's gosh, you glad when shit don't happen.
We're going to get there.
You know,
I'll get there.
it's glad when it don't happen. It's nice.
Sometimes you're just stuck in a simulation.
It's welcome to the world.
He's trying to break out of the Matrix.
A couple weeks ago, I was like, man, I wish somebody would just unplug me like Neo.
Dang, you know.
Do you really want to live where Neo was living at afterwards?
At least I know the real.
We were talking about that at work, and I was like,
At least he knew the real.
oh,
He wasn't living in
And that benefit him how?
He finally got his own free will.
Anyways,
how was your week?
Don't chase the white rabbit.
Just living life.
I've heard that, but I was usually over drugs.
I know. I want to say this. Thank you, Kevin, for reaching out. You said something, and I said I kept going back to it anytime I was low. You said that there was were they Rangers?
Yeah, homie.
And you said that today sucks, but let's quit tomorrow. And that shit stuck with me. And so I started listening to David Goggins, and so I've been just trying to, like I said, snap out of being in a dark place. So, like I said, that statement, I kept reliving it. Is today sucks, let's quit tomorrow.
That's what I go by. We can all quit tomorrow.
Tomorrow's a new day. New day, new challenges.
So, with that being said, we'll go ahead and get into it.
I said, damn, we in it. We cutting off already? Y'all niggas get 5 minutes this week.
We got that life shit that, you know.
I was watching a video. It was the guy that plays Reacher, Alan Ritchson. And it was a random video popped up, and I think I was supposed to see that shit. You know how certain things happen, you feel like you're supposed to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a video about him contemplating suicide. And he said that, like, he had got it hung up an extension cord and he was going to hang himself. And he said his reasoning for doing it is he felt like he was giving the world a gift of not having to deal with them anymore. And it hit a chord with me and made me feel that way because I've always felt like I was a burden to everyone. So, like, hearing that at that time, it struck a chord with me. And that's literally a lot of times where I'm at is that I don't want to burden the world anymore. And
You know, the only thing I could say about that is I get when people use the word world, but fuck the world. What really matters is your world, your circle, your life. And the people in your life want you there. You know? So when you feel like you don't benefit or, whatever it is, those people in your house, they don't want you gone. And that's all that really matters.
Yeah. Depression can be a motherfucker.
It can.
Because it's like when you think that way, you're thinking you're a burden.
Mm-hmm.
And like, definitely been there.
Right.
Plenty of times.
And that's what I say, you need to talk and, somebody give you that other perspective because you might not really see it or might just kind of dismiss it.
I think the hard part is it's hard to see past that.
Mm.
But I guess if you can find a way to get to the place to where you can kind of look from the outside, it's like, how could I possibly be a burden just because I have my emotions and how I feel? You know what I mean? Like, but that's good. I'm human. You don't want a robot. You don't want somebody who doesn't go through nothing. Like, nobody's wants that. Like, okay, we have struggles and shit. We all do. Like, that's how it goes. And it's like, we're supposed to pick each other up in that and be like, yo, man, that ain't a burden. Hell no. I'm happy to do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's one of those where it's hard to see past that, but you gotta, like, just, I don't know. It's like, it's, because that sounds so dismissive to say, like, to find a way.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's the hardest thing to explain to somebody. Like, I don't know how to explain to you how to find a way. Because, like, I could tell you how I do it, but that don't mean it's going to work for you.
I just think sometimes we get so caught up in, day-to-day life that we don't always notice the little things that are creeping up, building up in the background.
Yeah.
Because you're so focused on, the task at hand or what needs to be accomplished that you don't, you'll look up, 5-6 months down the road and you realize that, man, I need a break. Like this shit's not making me happy. It's actually bearing me down.
Yeah.
And you get to a point to where I know it happens to me a lot of times. I get to the point to where I feel like I don't see a way out. It's just, I'm just surrounded by shit. And, and I similar, I go to places I don't want to go. And then it's kind of like, I always get to a place where, okay, I can only feel bad for so long. Now I got to try to make some sense of what's in front of me. So then you start, slowly but surely you start navigating through and, assessing the situation. And you just, what I've found that works for me is I just start removing things and people at that time that either serves me no purpose or doesn't make me happy. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times, like a couple weeks ago when I was going through my whole ordeal, like I told McFly, I said, a lot of times I started thinking about the people I socialize with and the people who have access to me, and I'm like, a lot of times I really felt like a lot of people, only want access to you for what they can benefit from you. Like they you're not necessarily a friend to them. You're something they keep in their pocket in case they need something.
Now, can I say this? This is gonna sound weird, but that's everybody. I feel like everybody. You're not gonna be around somebody you don't benefit in some sort of.
But what I'm saying, what I'm saying is
more of a used,
more like to that person, you're this and only this type deal. Like, and they only come around when they can when they either need information from you or they want to I don't know, emotionally dump their problems on you or whatever the case may be. And so, like, what I found was I just started distancing myself from people that I felt like, I mean, I don't want to sound selfish, but like didn't serve me a purpose. Like anytime I felt like, the relationship or the friendship was only one-sided, I just cut ties because I felt like I literally, like I was telling you guys before recording, I literally sat down and I thought about everyone and I said, who's benefited from access to me, who and how am I benefiting? I said, like, is it a mutual beneficial situation or am I just the one giving? And because at that time I was to the point to where like I had nothing else to give. So if I'm not receiving something from you, I got to cut it off because I don't have anything extra to give. And I think a lot of times, like I was discussing with my wife, I said a lot of times I try to be a good person, and in doing that, I oftentimes overextend myself, and then I can't complain about being overextended because I did it to myself. I mean, I got to man up. So I just like I'm in one of those times, one of those periods in my life where it's like I just cut ties. It's no hard feelings. I don't feel any type of way. There's no beef, because I even had somebody hit me up. I was like, "What's the problem, guy?" I said, "No, there's no beef. There's no problem. It's just it is what it is. This is the situation at hand. I'm not saying that I won't communicate or talk to you. It's just that you won't have that access to me that you previously had. And that's what it is. So a lot of times it's like, especially as men, with the pressures of family life, work life, being providing for those you care for, and just trying to show up day in and day out for everybody in your circle. A lot of times we often forget to show up for ourselves. And I think that for me in particular, when I stop showing up for myself is when I get into that mindset. So I have to, and in black and better terms, I have to correct myself in order to get myself back into a good headspace.
Yeah, it's whatever. Because I feel like, I think one thing I always tell myself is like, I got to a point to where it was like, I worked this hard to get here. I'll be damned if I don't see what the fuck it looks like at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know when the end's going to be, but I'm curious to see where the fuck this goes. Because I know how much I've worked now, and I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to work to keep progressing, you know what I mean? So I feel like at the end of this, there's a good possibility it goes out a good way. But you also don't know how that goes, but I kind of want to see how that story goes.
I think another like little caveat to it is like, when you start to feel not appreciated, I think that also drives it. Because I think everybody wants to be accepted and appreciated to an extent, right?
In nature.
But it seemed like, just in my friend, I looked around and I felt like there were some people that took me for granted. So I removed myself.
Yeah. Or they say cut the cords.
Yeah.
Cut the cords. What you feeling? What y'all feeling? All right.
Yeah. How do you deal with your the instances where you have bouts of depression? Like, what are your things that you kind of tend to go to pick out of it?
It's different for me now because I have my daughter, right? So even like, I can be in depression and like a couple weeks, like all I want to do is lay down, right? But she'll come in with an energy and a smile, and it's kind of like, at first it's kind of like, you faking it because you want her to be happy, but then like her energy rubs off on me, and then I'm matching her energy, and now she's not completely pulling me out my depression because it's happening in the moment, but it kind of like shows me, this is why you go through or you do what you do. Like, this is why you stick around. This is why you work hard. This happened here, this smile here. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then, a lot of times, like I said, like we said before, like I start to communicate, with those around me and my wife, and I have conversations, and then you kind of like talk yourself up out of it. You know what I'm saying? Because what I've learned in the past is like, when you're in depression, it's, even when you recognize you're in it, it's not something you can easily come out of, right? You have to actually surround yourself with people who are, whose positivity outweigh your depression. So they kind of like lift you up out of it.
I think I take a different approach. It's kind of a process, I guess. Because it's like you said, when you recognize it, like you can first step is to learning to recognize what's what. Like, I think. So once you notice what you're going through, like, I think I separate for a minute and take that time to kind of reflect a little bit, not a little bit, kind of all the way. And then realize, okay, so I know what this is. I try to figure out where it's stemming from if I can. And then I have to integrate after that. So after I go through that, I'm like, okay, now I integrate. And like you said, then you take the small things and be like, okay, that felt good. Okay, that felt good. Okay, that felt good. Let's do more of this. Let's do more of this. So I guess it's more of a process the way I do it. So that's how I go about it. Hunter?
Me, just getting it out to the world, because I hold a lot of it in and I don't talk. And I've learned that just talking to somebody. As Andy said, you put the burden on them, but our friend ain't gonna look at it as a burden because sometimes you just got to get it off your chest. We don't talk about it; we hold it in, and just putting it out into the universe, putting the words out there. Sometimes it takes that weight off you, and that's usually what works for me. Just letting it out there. Especially to those people that are close to you. The last time I was in the thing was what took a big chunk of the burden off of me was actually telling my wife what was going on instead of not saying anything to her. And the conversation that we had, really changed what was going on. And that's, and then, of course, through this whole podcast and everything, I've learned that sometimes you just got to talk, holding it in doesn't really benefit you or the situation a lot of the times. It doesn't give you that chance to get a perspective. Like instead of say, you don't hear that words, we can fight tomorrow or whatever it was that the fuck he said. That shit right there, you get that from somebody else. And if you don't let nobody know what's going on, you're not going to get that info. So.
I mean, to your point, Hunter, a couple weeks ago, I told my wife, I said, I looked at her, I remember I said, I looked her dead in her eye and I said, why can't you love me like you love our child? Right. And I'm saying, like, I'm not saying I don't want you to mother me, but when I watch you love her, it's completely unconditional.
Mm-hmm.
There's conditions, whether you recognize it or not, there's conditions to how you love me. Like you have to be in the right mind, the right state. Things have to be going perfectly for you to love me the way, and to love me to the fullest. Whereas when it comes to the child, she can upset you. She can be on your last nerve. You're still going to love her unconditionally, no matter what she does. I said, but when it comes to me, there's conditions behind it. Right. I said, but when it's reversed, it's like, I don't get to, because of my role and the dynamic of the family we have, I don't get to have conditions behind my love. I have to show up day in and day out and love you regardless because of my commitment to you and my commitment to the household. I said, but when I'm looking for, I may not have been perfect today, right? But you're gonna let me know, right? Or I may have not, done X, Y, or Z, or I may have, maybe not worked a couple of days, or I may have, missed a payment for something, right? It's like you're gonna let me know, and you're gonna come down on me, right? But even when you come down on her, it's in a loving way. But when you come down on me, there's harshness behind it. It's a combativeness, right? So it's like, when I said that to her, like I could tell she got like a little offended, but she thought about it and we talked about it and like she kind of understood, like, yeah, I do understand, like when I'm dealing with you, sometimes I can be a little harsh. I could be softer. And I was just basically trying to understand, like, yeah, like my life as is hard enough. I don't want to have to fight the world and you. I said, so that's why, like, a lot of times I don't necessarily tell her everything I'm thinking or going through, because I know if I explain myself to you, now I gotta explain myself, one, which I don't want to do to start with, and now I'm gonna have to fight to justify, why I'm feeling this way. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not to say that she's not gonna validate what I'm feeling, but she's gonna have a rebuttal. And sometimes it's like, when I'm telling you how I feel, I don't want you to rebuttal. I just listen to how I feel. Let me get this off my chest and walk away. And I think that's something that a lot of men struggle with. I do feel like a lot of men feel like, our love is conditional.
See, and I feel like what you said, because I feel like that with the whole conversation, but it's opposite, because it'll come to me where something will be said and it's like, I just want you to listen. And it's like, to me, when that comes, it's like, you got to tell me that off the beginning, because I'm one of those who's like, if you're going to talk to me, I'm going to have a conversation. Like, might not like what I hear, but if you tell me off top, like, hey, I'm venting, just let me get this out. All right, I'm going to shut up. But I think, like, all of that comes down to, like, that. And that's weird that everything is almost a communication thing. And that's one thing we always,
but
just is men.
I think I've said this in the past, Kevin. Like, me and my wife, we've evolved to the point where we had that conversation before.
Yeah.
So when she said, I need to talk to you. So then the next question, like, is we ask each other, are we having a conversation?
Yeah.
Or am I listening? Right? So, like, but a lot of times, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't. I'm sorry. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
Like, you can respond if you want, right? And I understand that I can't dictate how she's going to respond. But she did take accountability for not always being the softest, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, because at the same time, as her being my woman, I'm not expecting her to be hard with me. I'm expecting her to help me cultivate a situation to where I can be vulnerable to her, right? And I told her before, I can't be vulnerable with you if I'm going to be met with harshness.
Now, I don't want to sound like nothing. Do you ever think that, because you're a very direct person, right?
For the most part.
Do you think that can come back that way, where it's not like she's thinking she's being harsh with you, she's just being almost like the same energy, you know what I mean?
Well, I can see sometimes where I'm telling her how I feel and she can feel attacked.
Yeah.
And I, like I always say, as humans, it's hard to hear something and not take it personal, especially when they're talking to you about you,
Yeah.
because I do the same thing when she's telling me about myself. It may be true what she's saying, but it's like, hey, like, you can, soften the edges a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Tell me something you like about me sometime, So it's like, I understand that, that's a hard situation to be in. But like you said, it is the communication part. And it's like, if I'm being vulnerable and I'm trying to get an understanding and I'm trying to like tell you how I feel and I'm trying to like get out of this place that I'm in, I need you to be receptive of what I'm saying. And if you see that I'm having a hard time, then you shouldn't necessarily respond with harshness. You should respond in a more loving way.
That's a hard one, because I get it's an expectation, but that's the hardest thing in the world.
But that's what the relationships are, the expectation.
That's the hardest thing in the world.
But I mean, like when you said I did, she expected you to be loyal, you expected her to be loyal.
Yeah.
It's an expectation.
I'm learning a lot to like, not every expectation needs to be exactly what I'm expecting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it's in a direction, fuck it, you're trying.
I will say this. My wife has always said, she always said to me, she says, you have to tell me how to love you.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone is loved differently. Right? So if I can communicate effectively how I want to be loved and she meets that, that's the expectation that I expect. Because when she communicates to me, I need to meet her. I need to meet her where she needs to be loved.
And that can change too. That's the thing. Because that can change over time. I do got a question with the lines of in the depression. So have you guys noticed when you identified what triggers you? Like, is it usually something that's external that kind of like triggers you into it, or is it something that it just sparks?
I know for me, it's constant, like certain things that happen that kind of take me back to when I was a child or at any time where it was a big issue. So it's almost like sweeping it under the rug and it never got dealt with. So like when a certain instance will happen, that it'll automatically kind of like insert here, and then it like hit me like a ton of bricks. So it'll be like,
does that feel like is it like a fear of like a repeating that, going back to whatever?
I don't know if it's a fear or if it's just something where it's kind of like you thought you've gotten away from it, you thought you were good, and then somebody or something will remind you that
still got some work.
Yeah.
I know for me it's a fear, because I don't want to go back. I don't want to regress. I only want to progress. It's a fear.
Yeah,
it's a fear.
I think fear is good. If you got to learn. It's the control part is the hard part.
Because even with going through like those bouts of depression and contemplating things, like I never, like the thing that I know gets me through it, I never thought to take a day off. Even when I don't feel up to it, I'll just go to the gym and I'll go lift or I'll go, play basketball or do something that just kind of not let me think about it for however long. But it's just something that like gets triggered, and then it'll just put me in some downward spiral, and then I just start thinking about everything negative, and then
Yeah.
What I learned is like similar to you, Kevin, like sometimes I just need to get a good cry.
I haven't cried in over a year, nigga.
You need to get a good cry.
The last time I cried was at my dad's grave.
I'm telling you right now, I cried a couple weekends ago, like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Just cried, thinking about all I lost, think about all I could lose, think about all the things I'm unhappy with, and then then I try to think about what's going good, and I try to lean towards that and lean that way. But it's almost like when I did cry, it was like lifting the boulder off my shoulder a little bit. It actually, crying actually gave me clarity.
Weirdo.
The only thing I have that's similar to that, a simulation of that, is the little thing. Like when Kevin reached out and then he said what he said, I will take the effort of him saying what he said, and I would look at the like the message, the today sucked, but let's quit tomorrow. Like I would take that and like take that to heart and like hold it in and be like, I'm gonna take that to try to get through to the next part. Or like something simple as like at the gym, there's a girl that works the front desk, and she saw me randomly last week, and she was like, Andy, right? And I said, yeah. And she was like, you're one of my regulars now. And when she said that, it made me feel good because it was something where she just took the time to remember my name and say, I see you all the time, so I'm going to remember you, and you're one of my regulars. And she smiled, and it made me feel good because it was like, yeah, this is something I am doing consistently. And for you to be able to acknowledge that, it meant a lot. Like, it's something simple, but it meant a lot because it was just taking that little small victory and saying, that's right, I have been here for a year, and she's acknowledging that I continuously come regularly, and I'm not just some random guy that sporadically pops up in the gym.
You're not like that blurred face in the fucking back of a picture. I mean, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the only way to describe it. Where you're like, I'm just floating through this shit.
Yeah, and it does feel like you're just like Hunter when we were on our way here said, like you're just going through a loop.
Yeah.
And you're living this life loop, and you're so stuck in this loop that sometimes, like when you're somewhat triggered, you're like, what the fuck have I been doing? What am I doing? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, why am I doing this? And then you have to find the meaning in it to make it feel worth it, because why am I in this continuous cycle of just doing the same things over and over? And like you said, sometimes you feel like there's no way out of it. So
this is gonna sound weird because I was thinking this, and I was like, when you get into that state, it's probably weird to think this, but you're like, why is my body telling me this? Like, that's kind of how I think, because I'm like, I almost feel like everybody goes into some sort of state. Some are like very, very, very different. And I think your body is almost like, it sounds like you're connected in some way to whatever's going on. And it's like your body is kind of telling you like, hey man, something ain't right. And like, I almost go, all right, let me listen to this. So that's where my quiet shit comes from, where I'm like, all right, I gotta listen. And then you kind of like run through life and you're like, that's where it's at. Like, I know that sounds weird, but like, I kind of like, and then I kind of see, and like most of the time I'm like, well, that part I can't fucking do nothing about. But this part I can do something about. And let me go through this shit though. Like, cause this shit's important. Like the crying part.
Yeah.
Like when I go to a crying state, I'm more like, cool. Okay. Go to it. Like release it. Don't fight that shit. Just let it be. And usually on the other side of it, you're like, that felt good. And sometimes you're like, all right, that felt better, but all right, there's still stuff we gotta figure out. So,
and
I don't know.
Another thing I did randomly, I was listening to David Goggins. And I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to go on TikTok and I'm going to just start talking about my childhood. And in my mind, I was like, maybe me saying something from listening to David Goggins shit. It was like, maybe if I talk about something, maybe it'll spark a chord in someone else, and maybe it'll make them feel like they, I went through something similar. So yeah, like that helped me hearing you say something.
Yeah.
So I just started talking about my childhood, and it's like something I never really talked aloud about. But when I talked about it aloud, it made it feel real. And then it hit me like, and then I even said in one of the videos, maybe my dad should have put me in some sort of therapy at some point, because when I thought about some of the shit that I was saying, I was like, kid ain't supposed to go through that shit. Like, and I realized that I wasn't supposed to, but when you really hear it aloud, you're like, I ain't supposed to bear that weight. I'm not supposed to sit here and think about my grandmother being this evil woman who pointed and laughed at me when my mom was going to whip me, and my mom having to cry and in disbelief be like, why did my own mother hate my child? Like, and knowing that that's what she was experiencing at 4 years old, me comprehending that as a 4-year-old, looking at my mother deal with what she had a realization about, and it be out of my control and her control. But she thought she was doing what was best for her child. Like, to understand that at 4 is not something you should be understanding at 4.
That's a hard one.
Or like dealing with the back and forth with them and constantly seeing them fight in front of me.
Yeah.
And me not having any other guide of knowing what a relationship's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Than my parents always arguing. I don't have any other thought.
Have you ever talked to either one of them about that?
I didn't, but I said this on the podcast maybe a year ago. The last memory I have of them together, they were civil. That's the only time I've ever seen them civil.
Yeah.
Throughout my whole childhood, it was always turned up.
Yeah.
I can't stand that. Yeah. So to see the last image I remember having of them together, how you doing, Jesse? How you doing, Faye?
Yeah.
And it was like, that's the first time I've ever seen you guys be civil.
Blew you away.
I'm used to something being thrown, cops being called, someone screaming, whatever. So like the last image I did have of them was them being civil enough. And Zulia told me recently that when she talked to my mom about it, she said that she did that because she wanted us to all see the situation differently, especially the grandkids.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I had that conversation with my parents, and it's like somewhere in the middle of the ocean. I was like going through that shit, and then I just kind of like cried after like probably like 15 years of not crying. That which fucking mad unhealthy. And like I came back home, and I remember talking to him, and I was just like, you know what? Like I get it. You guys did what you did, but you did the best you could. So I like forgive y'all. And like it didn't go too well with my dad.
That's something.
But you know
that's just how he took it. And I wasn't mad how he took it. I'm like, that's how you're going. I'm telling you something where you're like, what the fuck you got to forgive me for? Nigga, I raised you. And I'm like, I understand that. I get where you're coming from there.
All right. Because if my boys came to me and said that to me, it wouldn't bother me. You know, to me, it's like, I'm glad you see that now. Because you don't see it when you're younger. You don't understand it. And we're a lot of us are doing this for the first time. We're going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen. Life is life. And when you get older, you see it. And you go through it even with your own kids.
Yeah.
You know? So it's the cycle that goes.
When you say that, like, I think about, like, the last few times that I was on good terms with my dad, when we had fallen out and he come back around, he was like, you know what? Things happen, but I forgive you, son. And I'm thinking in my head, like, this mother... But then I was like, you know what? It's bigger.
And that was his word.
Like it's bigger to just be like, yeah, Dad, you forgive me. Thank you. Whatever. Just to be on good terms. Fine. But like, it's that pride thing where it's like, I forgive you, son. And it's like, the last time we got into it was over. You know what? You forgive me. Cool. Like that was how I took it. Like, you know what? If this means that we're on good terms, fine. If you have to say that you forgive me, I'm all okay. Like, but it is what it is.
Pride is a very powerful thing. And a lot of people really fight to the end for it for no real reason.
And to put that pride to the side is a big thing, too.
Yeah.
Like, if you have that strength to be able to say, you know what, I can put this shit to the side if it means getting to a better resolution, I'll do it.
Because we got to realize that shit, this shit ain't... We feel like it's long. This shit ain't long. This shit ain't long at all.
No.
Just watching these kids, I'm like, damn.
And it's
Looking
like
at pictures, I'm like, oh.
right. And it's like, you know,
They
when
ain't little
I was
babies.
talking about the whole being in a loop, you know, is I'm 10 years older than you guys. So I've been 10 years into it more. And it is a loop, but you gotta find that happiness in that.
Bigger.
Well, it's not even make that bigger. It's find that happiness in the loop.
Yeah.
When you focus on all the negativity in it, it does no good. But in that same loop, there's so much positivity, taking care of your kids, providing for your kids, seeing your kids grow up. You know, there's so many positives in it that sometimes we get blinded by the negatives. But yes, it's a cycle that you're going to do, and you're going to do it day in, you're going to do it day out until the day you die.
And I would say one thing I kind of realized is the more positive connections you have, the better. Like the more positive connections you have, the longer you can go without it creeping up on you. You know what I'm saying? So if you surround, that's why I think they always say, you know, it's important to surround yourself with the right people. You know, it's like it's better to have, you know, 3 or 4 people that you know for 100% have your back than to be, you know, on good terms with, you know, 20 associates that's only around for a good time. You know, you want those people around that you know that in your darkest of times they'll pick up and say, you know what, something ain't going on. Let me at the very least let me reach out. Let me send a text. Let me send a phone call or something. Like you want those kind of people around, you know. And when I had took the step back and I thought about it, so yeah, I was like, when I took the step back and I thought about it, so yeah, that's true. Like the people I felt like, I said, I probably got about a good 4 or 5 people right now I could pick up my phone and call and they'd answer and talk to me. Like if I really wanted to talk and get it off my chest, they would answer. But then there's also something to me where it's like, I know I could, but I'm not going to do it. Yeah. So it's like, how do I get out of that? You know, because it goes back to like what Andy was saying. Like I don't want to be a burden. Like because I look at like, man, like, you know, it's like, yeah, I know. Like, I could have called Andy. I was like, yeah, but you know, Andy got his shit going on, man. I'm not gonna pile on top of his shit. You know, Kevin got to sleep or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I started thinking about like, in that mindset, I don't want to push, you know, what I'm dealing with off on somebody else because, you know, I know, but that's
think about it this way. Take those 5 people. Imagine if they called you.
I'm answering the phone.
You're gonna be there.
Even with
they're gonna be
have going on.
Like, and so it's like you gotta.
It's easier said than done.
Understand that, but I'm like, if you have those people as people, then utilize that. Like, there's a reason those people are in your head. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't just be like, well, and then you go, well, no, fuck that. I ain't calling them. Like, why? Like, most people have fake motherfuckers around them. Like, most people do, and they'll call them. I'm like, oh man, I'm at the grocery store.
You got shit.
Yo, you telling me you can't talk?
You got shit.
You ain't got shit.
You got shit you don't want to do.
You assume I have shit.
You got shit you want to deal with.
But that's the thing. That's the way I try to block
you
out.
You a therapist, nigga.
Reach past that, even though I'm bad at that. I'm bad at that too.
That before I went into that stupor, that spiral, I told you, Mo, like I noticed that my defense mechanism was to, when I felt like something happening, I would just automatically detach and distance. That's my go-to. And I got so comfortable with doing it, I just do it all the time. It's almost like autopilot. But I realized it just puts me in this perpetual state of being alone and thinking to myself. And then that shit gets me in trouble.
Yeah.
But like, it's the thinking.
I feel like that part's important, but then you got to disconnect.
Yeah.
Not disconnect, but disconnect from that part. Because you can disconnect from everything else.
It's like
it's so easy to say. I know
you get so used to it that you go, and then it's like, oh, now you're in this void bubble by yourself, and you're like, I ain't deal with shit though. Like I'm just, I'm just by myself dealing with everything at the same time, and it's hit me from left, right. It's like, what was the best example I give is as a visual example is like Doctor Strange in the second movie where all the fucking spirits were hitting him at once. That's what it feels like. It's like, oh, you didn't deal with your parents' issues. Bow. Oh, you didn't deal with this. Bow. Oh, you didn't do this. Think about this. Bow. Like, and it's all hitting you from different angles. And you're like, I've distanced and detached myself so much. who the fuck is gonna give a fuck? Like, I'm dealing with this by myself because I literally put myself in a void. Like,
And you're your own worst enemy.
yeah,
Sometimes.
like, and it gets to a point where I was just like, is the easiest option just to off myself? Like,
No.
and I hit that point.
As I said, that's why I've learned just to talk. You guys talk about crying. You know I'll cry in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah, we know.
You know, but I don't care. You know, I get it out. I say it, and I've learned that you just got to let it out. To me, if I call and I talk to you, I need a soundboard. I don't need you to fix anything. I don't need you to do anything. I just need you to soundboard. You know, because like I said, just putting it out there to where you don't feel alone in it. You know, just letting somebody just get it off you, and then, you know, you step out of that small little bubble and you don't feel like I'm in this alone. You know, then, you know, by the time you hang up the phone, you're like, damn, you know, you feel a little bit of release. But when you hold it in, you get into that bubble, you become your own worst enemy. Your mind is a very vicious, evil cycle.
And
that just can
it
run you.
sucks is that ton of bricks feeling. Like, it'll hit you like out of nowhere. You're like, ooh, shit, like that hit hard. Like, what the fuck did that come from? And like, I realize there's been so many instances lately, like there would be like a memory, and the only person that would remember that story would be my dad. And when you realize that you're the only thing on this earth that has that memory left, that shit hits. Because like, there's certain things that I'm like, man, I would really like to be able to ask my dad what happened there and what can he remember when that happened, or what this situation, or remember when that happened. And you realize you're the only thing left on earth that remembers that, because no one else can corroborate your story.
Right. That's another fear I have.
What's that?
When it comes to my grandparents. Like, remember the memories, remember the voice, remember the inflictions. You know what I'm saying? Remembering those things. It's like I can see the memory clear as day. You know, but sometimes I have to like really ponder how what was said.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like that, and then when I start thinking about shit like that depresses me. Because then I start missing them. Yeah. And it's kind of like, well, now I'm spiraling, you know, I'm thinking about this. Yeah. And so like that within itself, like that's been a fear of mine forever. You know, like I remember I lost it was maybe like a year or two after my grandma had passed, and I lost my cell phone. And it wasn't even about losing the cell phone. It was about that cell phone had the last voicemail on it. And I beat myself up so bad. I was like, this is the last like of her voice that I had, that I don't have anymore. And like, even when I think about it now, I get mad at myself. Like, how could you lose this? Like, because I had been telling myself forever, I got to find a way to get this off the phone, get it somewhere, you know. And I never did. I never did. I never got around to it. I was too busy, you know, feeling bad for myself. Too busy, you know, not living the life I should have been living to even take the time out to do that. So like that, like when you said that, like that's a fear of mine. Like that's why it's funny we talk about this. I was talking to you know, Eddie, the shifter.
Yeah.
And I was telling him, man, I was like, you know, because he had went through, you know, a similar situation with his mom. You know, she was fighting for her life, and I was just telling him, I said, man, hey, bro, I said, I'm praying for you and all that. I said, but I'm telling you right now, man, cherish it, because you're gonna miss it. And the thing is like, you're gonna miss the little things. You're gonna miss, you know, how she walked, how she used to say, call your name, you know, the little thing, like that's the stuff you're gonna miss. That's all. Like, and because I told him, I was like, man, you know, because he sees them all the time. You know, he took that month off to be with her. I said, every chance you get, bro, call her. I said, I don't care if it's just you walking from the shifter to the bathroom. Like, call her, because you're gonna miss it. I'm telling you. Like, I'm telling you this from experience, brother. Like, you're gonna miss it. So, like, when you said that, like, that just really, like, that sparked, like, I was like, yeah, because that's a fear. Like, I fight daily to remember those things.
That reminded me of a good thing is when I went to Texas. Well, shit, a lot of things, because what you said with the memory, that shit hurt me with my aunt, because she's the last one. She's like, I'm the last one. And I was like, damn, I can't even imagine that. But while I was there, I was in the same boat. I don't have any voicemails. Like the shit I have with my dad is like, it's don't got nothing. But my cousin had a videotape, and there he was. And I was like, I have not heard his voice in years. And that's good. That's a good feeling. It's a really good feeling. Like it didn't bring up any like, but he was a little drunk in there. But I was like, that's cool, man. Like that was cool.
But the crazy thing is like, once they're gone, it's like, yeah, you can recall the negative times, but it's to me personally, it's all the positive is what stands out.
Yeah.
So to me that lets me know like it was way like what I thought was a big thing, it wasn't a big thing because obviously the positive are heavily outweighing what I thought was negative.
Well, you find out because like there's shit I still remember that was bad, but you're like, I
mean, a lot of times I think about the bad. A lot of times I think about the bad stuff. I'm like, I deserved it. I deserved it.
I don't feel that way with it.
I just know the journey is like the big thing, the good and the bad, like the kind of culmination of like seeing that, like you get to experience that with that person. Yeah, it sucked that you had to have the bad in it, but like, cause like I asked that question however many pods ago, because it stemmed from the Joe Budden podcast, to go back and rewind certain things, even if for a split second, it would be nice to just go and say, hey, like I would really like to go relive that. Like it's a big thing because I do miss them, and like it sucks.
Right. Me losing my mom and my grandma within a year apart and only being 25, 24 at the time. I don't have nothing to look back on. I for maybe the past 10 plus years, I didn't even have a picture. And then I remember talking to somebody that knew my mom, and he was like, oh, I have some pictures of her. So he sent them to me, and those are the only pictures I have of my mom. It's 3. There's no sound, there's no voice, there's no pictures, there's no nothing. And
do you still remember it? Like me, I find myself in those moments where you like remember like a laugh.
No, I can't. The last years of my mom's life was just tragic. Just tragic. To the point to where it's like you're at the point where it's just better off that they're passed away because they're not who they are no more, what they are, and those memories are gone. But in that same token, now that I realized that, and I said this before in this podcast, my main reason of doing this podcast is leaving my voice, leaving my sayings, leaving my face, leaving everything to where when I do pass, my kids, grandkids can always go back and pull this up. And they don't have to forget what I sound like, what I laugh about, my stories, my past. They still feel connected, even when you're alone and gone. That's a big reason why I do this now. I said that before. It is everything else is what it is, but leave it at. Like I was going to ask you guys, what are you doing now so your kids don't feel that way?
Extending the loop. That's what I mean by that. I'm making my loop bigger by doing shit that I'm like, okay, this is gonna make us happy. This is gonna make us happy. This is something like that's why I move something.
What are you leaving of you? What are you leaving that? Like you said, I should have had that voicemail. What are you leaving of you?
I can tell you right now.
My all.
We have, and it's probably something I've seen the last couple weeks, the impact of our parenting onto our daughter, right? Because when she does her little impressions of us, you're like, oh, she's watching. Like, and she says, like, she can say certain words just like, Dad, I say this just like mommy. This is you, Dad. Or this is what you like, she'll mimic something we'll say, or she'll mimic something we do, and like flawless, right? And then also when she talks about us to us, the way her face lights up, how she's smiling, how she's happy, how like, you know, she always says, I have the best family. I just have the best family, you know? So it's like, and it's like, it's little stuff like that that kind of like validates, you know, our parenting form, because we're not relatively hard on her, and, you know, but it's like we do make the effort to be the parents that we didn't have, because we didn't have present parents. We didn't have parents that, you know, took us, you know, to practice and we sit at practice or went to games, because, you know, my wife's, her mother was a single mother. So she was working. She didn't have time to do stuff like that. My grandparents, they couldn't get around like that. So it was something that we didn't expect of our parents, but we expect of ourselves. And so she's used to always having attention and love from us, right? And then she also knows that, you know, daddy has a podcast, mommy and daddy has a podcast. So she knows that we have videos. She knows how to go through our phones to get videos. And she knows that, hey, when, you know, I'll have these eventually one day, because she always says one day this is going to be mine. Like this is yours. She like now she'll say, oh, this is my house. Like, it's just in time. This is my house. Like, this is what she says, right? But she also, like, what I did, I got this idea from somebody. I forgot, but like she has an email account. And I just randomly send her emails. And when she gets of age, I was like, here's your email account. Here's your, you know, your mailbox is full, but you know, here's your stuff. So like she has this stuff of just us. So like the pictures from her birthday party, all that. She's gonna have all that, and it's gonna be right there for her to have. So she's gonna know from the day we found out she was in her mother's womb that she was loved from that point until we're no longer able to be with her. Right?
I just know they hate it, but any chance I get, I'm posting a picture, videos, whatever. Like, I take video pictures all the time, just so they know that, and I see it happen now, even though they don't like it that it happens, that they always want to know what they look like as a baby or whatever. And it's like, here's a picture, and there goes mom, or there's this, and remember when your brother was born, and it like
Forget that way of saving it.
Yeah.
That's the thing we forget. Like you said, I had the voicemail, but I never did nothing with it. Don't forget, you got to put that shit somewhere.
I mean, it was 2008. It was a different time.
But I'm still, it's not, it's, you know what I mean, though.
Yeah,
if you keep it on your phone, and it's always on your phone, that doesn't benefit. You got to put that shit somewhere else, because your phone is ever fleeting, you know? So you got to put that shit somewhere else.
Because if you don't pay for the cloud, then,
you know? So like I say, you got to make sure to put it somewhere else. I like his idea of putting it in the email. You know, you can, your emails.
Yeah, I pay for the cloud, but eventually, if you're not there to pay for the cloud, like,
right. You know, I like the email idea. That was a good one right there, because your email is going to be there
for the longest time. Like when she passed, my grandma passed. You know, my cell phone was still on her plan, so I would call my wife's phone just to see her name pop up. Like that. Like,
I'm not laughing at that. I'm just laughing because when my dad died, I called my mom's house and she had to call her ID on the TV. And she's like, Kevin Ellis. It's like, Mom, I'm a junior. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's little stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like say,
but there are, like, there's videos and stuff like that. My sister has them. That I hopefully one day I can get for myself. But I have photos. I have tons of photos of them.
Yeah, I'm trying to just do.
And me, I have nothing.
Take them out.
I have absolutely.
I have their. You guys. You know, I got their photo in my living room.
I don't have that. That's what irks me. I don't have no pictures of my grandpa, my grandma, my mom. Just the ones I got from somebody else. Nothing. You know,
what's crazy to me is that it doesn't happen so much with my grandmother, but my grandfather. Since I'm friends on Facebook now with more of his like side of the family, and when I look at my cousins, and I be like, that's him. Yeah, like you can like the Biddle side of my family, them genes are strong. Like, so it's like it's them. And then when I look at my grandmother's side, you know, they all stay in Washington. Like, I can see it in like part of her features in some people, and like some not. Like, but it's weird. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, I guess like I see them a little bit. Yeah, do that.
I think we're taking a lot of time right now, though. make sure we see each other instead of just on funerals, and weddings. Like, and it was funny seeing my cousin because he was introducing me to his son, and he was like, "See, that's your cousin right there. He's your uncle's son." And he's like, you can see like he looked like us, and I was like chuckling. He was like, "No, but that's important. Like, we moved away, and I don't see nobody that looks like us." And like I want him to know that there's Ellis's all over it. And then like when we went to Virginia, that's what one of my cousins was telling me too. And it's like, and then it's just going around. It's like, hey, we're here. Yeah. So it's like, that's the thing with me, because of taking the kids. We went out there and they still talk about like, let's go. Like, I want to go to our Virginia house. And like, that shit is awesome to me. Like, I'm like, cool. So I want them to, that's what I'm trying to do, is just be there much as, not be there, but you know what I mean? Like, just create as much.
I can't agree with that, Kevin, because when we went to New Mexico last year, I was like, we should do this more often. Like, even though it's a hell of that drive is terrible. But it was like, she was like, "Oh my God, Dad, I have so many cousins."
Yeah.
You know, and then we got we're all together, and we're looking at them like, little niggas looking like that.
Yeah.
You speak of that, and then like, what's weird is I have a small bubble, and you got this. I don't even know if you were listening, but when you hopped in my game, my cousin had hopped in, and I didn't know he was there. When we were playing, and I was like, because I looked and I was like, there's two green. I was like, oh shit, that's Maurice, and then I was like, it's Keith. That's my cousin, and he was like, yeah, cuzzo, they're over here, cuzzo, and I'm like,
yeah.
Me, like, it's weird because like we connected a couple of times, and it's so weird, but like those are the small victories I take, because like we bond over Call of Duty, like, and it's one of them things where when he randomly sees me on, he'll join my game, won't say shit until all of a sudden you're like, man, they over here, cuz I'm like, who the fuck, like, but it's one of them things where it's like, yeah, the couple of the relationships where I can see the cousins are saying, I know you had a bad dealing with our grandma or whatever, but like, just know I'm here for you kind of thing. Like,
what's wild for me is that so my daughter, like, they have like a cousin like FaceTime group. They FaceTime and they play Barbies together, right? And like the conversations be wild.
Yeah,
I'll be like, you guys are like 7, 8. Yeah. I think the oldest is like 9. What are y'all talking about? But, you know, and it's like, of course, I already know when they hang up, Phoenix finna come tell me all the tea.
Yeah.
You know what my cousin said? Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, like, but to me, that's cool. Like, that's something like they're afforded because of the generation they have. You know, so like when we're that age, like if we want to in the house together, we you know, we want to see it. But they literally now do a video conference.
Yeah.
And they like, I said, okay, cool. So, and like, I know, like, when my family, with my brothers and sisters, we try on the weekends, like, if my sister's off, we'll all FaceTime at one time and chop it up for a little bit. So we make the effort, you know, to see each other even when, you know, we're far away. That's just, you know, the times we're in. But I think that, like I said, going back, like, it's the connection, like, because I feel like regardless of who you are, everyone needs some form of human connection. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to have, because that connection validates that you two are human and that, you know, everybody goes through the same shit.
Yeah. So with that being said, this has been episode 135, I believe, of the Heavyweight Podcast.
It's one of those.
I am Stutter McFly, thanking you guys for listening to us, especially with, you know, deep subject like this. But again, I'm back with these three guys.
I'm Kevin Ellis. I'll be Kevin Ellis right now.
Junior. It's your boy Melissa the Grouch.
I'll do that.
Hey, and they call me Hunter.
And on that, with what we talked about too, if you're ever feeling any way, you don't have anybody to reach out to,
DM Kevin.
Should get the hotline number instead of just saying call the suicide hotline.
And you can reach out to Kevin
personally
at Dulo.
If you got my number, you can.
Or you can come on. The Heavyweight Podcast. If you want to DM us because you're going through some shit. If I'm on, I'll read and try to help.
Yeah, we're honest people.
Sometimes too honest.
Not in that situation.
So
I'm doing bad.
so if you ever need a ear, if you reach out to the Heavyweight Podcast on IG, TikTok, wherever, I will. If I'm on, I will respond. I can't say anything about their schedules. I don't know if they're scheduled on, but they're good guys. I know they'll respond. And
It's just a 3-number thing now?
Yeah.
Wow. 988.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's smart. So
988.
988. We love y'all. Thank you so much.
like, subscribe,
Love you,
listen,
Negroes.
share. Till next time, peace. We love you.
Peace.
Grits.
It's a wrap. That's all she wrote, folks. Thanks for tuning in once again. You can check us out on all streaming platforms. Click like, subscribe, leave some comments. You know what I'm saying? Is it Monday yet? Hello. Every Monday you got new episodes, so tune in. Have a blessed one.